Help the audience understand, Mr. President, when people talk about systemic racism, what are we really talking about?
When you look at systemic and structural racism, you're talking about public policy. It's not about whether or not individuals like each other. It is about public policy. Let me give you 3 examples. When the Social Security Administration was established, in that law, there was an exception of who would qualify for Social Security. And that exception was agricultural workers and domestic workers were exempt, meaning that African Americans who represented 80% of agricultural and domestic workers during that time, we lost 3 generations of that safety net for our elders who had given all their labor, and when they retired, they had no way to retire in decency and dignity. Secondly, when FHA was created, it was perhaps the vehicle that created more wealth in this country than anything else. It was the federal home mortgage program. But federal policymakers left the decision of who would qualify for mortgages to local bankers and developers, who would then determine that African Americans were not qualified for mortgages. We lost 2 generations of being able to actually accumulate wealth through home equity. And then thirdly, in the developments, the GI Bill and others created the suburban communities as we know it. And because of restrictive covenants, we could not move in certain communities. We were locked out of those communities. And then individuals began to move out, establish separate school districts, locking our children in districts that were depleted of the tax revenue necessary to maintain the quality education that's important for a child. But most importantly, our home value was devalued. That is structural and systemic racism that robs this nation of the ability of some of its most talented citizens to fully participate. And we're living in the legacy of that. And at some point, this government must repair the injury they've done to a population of people for no other reason other than the color of our skin.